So, who would like to break the ice with the first question?
Can I just say I'm for rent control?
Okay, he wanted to harass people because Jeff Bergman is for rent control, and or at least he is. Go ahead.
Got it for all three. What are the three key issues facing the city of Newport Beach for the next 10 years?
And you know, when you ask a question like that, the three issues, it's like asking them to all give Vinny speeches. So we'll have each guy give one issue, and then we'll go to the next one. Rent control.
So I'm in my second term on the Finance Committee, and I can guarantee you number one issue, unfunded pension liability. We're at now over $300 million, estimated to be $315 million. Last year, we paid $21 million in our budget towards something that 10 years ago was zero. Next year it'll go up, the year after it'll go up, and that is the number one issue financially for us right now.
And nothing like starting out on a sour note. Go ahead, Lee.
Scott, people want to know what Will knows specifically. He said write a personal check, right? Or Will, what are you going to do about it?
This is why Bob McCaffrey's here tonight.
So we've identified the problem. The solution's a little tougher. You have to elect them to find out the solution.
We've been doing good things at the Finance Committee level. City Council's adopted some good policies. Half our surplus will now go toward our long-term liabilities, which I will remind everyone includes over $200 million still on our Civic Center debt. So we are at over $500 million in Civic Center debt and unfunded pension liability that 10 years ago again was zero. So if we want to get back to basics, let's elect people who will actually get us back to the culture that we had before.
All right,
we did that.
time's up.
All right.
Go ahead.
Will's right, that's the number one issue that's facing us long-term over the next 10 years. But a close second is infrastructure. We need to put more money into our infrastructure, local infrastructure, public infrastructure. Our seawalls here, as we all know, living here on the island, has a lot of issues. So we need to go in, we need to put our public dollars, that's a public usage, and we need to put our dollars in there to make those seawalls better and to last another 50 to 100 years. I think we talk about not just into seawalls, but also to our streets and roads to kind of get the flow of traffic a little bit smoother. We're always going to have, I mean, it's no news to anyone, we live in a very beautiful area, so we're going to have people all from Southern California, all over the world coming here, so we're always going to be a draw, we're always going to have traffic, but as I say in these forums, our traffic problems aren't going to be won by yards, they're going to be won by inches, and putting more money into putting another left turn lane, maybe widening the street, those type of things, synchronizing signals, those things is what's going to help our quality of life in a much better way.
Okay, so this is a trick question. How many visitors does Newport Beach get every year? Do I hear 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 20 million? No, it's not that high. 5 million. Keep going. 6 million.
10.
It's 10 million. We get 10 million visitors a year. Second only to Disneyland. So you wonder why we have traffic. And they're still developing houses inland. So. Oh, somebody dropped their line. Okay, Brad, go ahead.
What?
Come on, number one issue for you.
The number one issue is quality of life. I mean, in my view. So that ties into the debt reduction.
Oh, come on, quality of life sounds so bad. All right, you guys, what's quality of life? Brad's going to tell us what it is.
Yeah, really, clean air, clean water.
Traffic.
He's going to take care of all those problems.
What about this museum house? Are people for it? Is there anyone in here that's for the museum house project? Anybody? All at once? So, safer. But in working with us on the Harbor Commission, and I was with Dudley for a year before he matriculated off the Harbor Commission, and now on council, thankfully. The harbor needs quite a bit of help, and it's been benignly, I will say benignly neglected for 30, 40 years. There's a lot of infrastructure improvements that need to be made in terms of the seawalls, in terms of the drainage, in terms of And I'll lump in infrastructure with the pollution issue and water quality in terms of catchment basins up at the end of the back bay. So there's pollution issues, there's the infrastructure issues, and then there's the dredging issue, which is connected really to all of it. And we need to come up with a sustainable plan to continually dredge the harbor. And that's a hard thing to get your mind wrapped around, because if you're looking out here, it looks fine, there's no problem, but you can't see this. Every year the harbor silts up a little more, and the more rainfall we have, and it's been less an issue lately, but it will happen, the harbor silts up faster. So we need to keep dredging moving in the harbor, and that allows more water to move through the harbor, which produces better water quality, and also allows residents to be able to dredge in front of their homes. So we need to create a market where we've got competing, at least a couple of competing businesses do dredging in the city. So not city-owned dredging, we don't want to be in the dredging business, but we want to create an environment through easy permitting to allow businesses to come in and have reliable business dredging in the harbor for the city and for residents. So that's probably the number one thing we need to achieve besides the infrastructure.
For Brad, is the Tidelands Fund sufficiently funded each year to cover all those expenses?
Well, no, and of course, thanks for that. There's a study indicating, just recently came out, indicating how much revenue the harbor generates every year for the city. And so I think that when you see that, you realize how valuable the harbor is. So as a community, we're going to have to all recognize that not just the boaters and not just the people who live on the water, not just the residents who live near the water, but everyone in Newport Beach has a stake in the harbor's health and in its success and the protection of the seawalls and all the rest of it. We can't look at it as just a harbor issue. It's a city issue. We need to work together, and it'll take some heavy lifting on the part of everyone to keep the harbor not only status quo, but to actually improve it. That's where we need to go.
Well, I would expect not just heavy lifting, but equitable lifting.
Yes.
That's fair.
Citywide.
Well, that's one of the reasons that study that came out shows the benefits to the entire city. Okay, so our annual budget is $200 million for our general fund. How much of that comes from the harbor? This study pegged $46 million comes just from the harbor.
So previous councils have never really got this, and so we've got now, everyone's on board with this. Everyone's on board, so we understand collectively, and so that's what's really going to make a difference.
So we're going to try to avoid the fiasco of the last council of just raising the dock taxes for the people that are on the harbor to pay for it. All right, another question.
Is there anything we can do about this rain runoff that's coming into the back bay?
From San Diego Creek.
So the question is what do we do about the rain runoff that comes into the back bay?
So that, what are you talking about, trash or water?
No, I'm really talking small route, so we got this fresh water back bay, like silt, other chemicals. And is there anything we can do to have somebody reroute that water someplace?
I think
I was saying that's a good question for Duffy. He's on our
the
watershed.
answer is still right.
The question is can Duffy answer the question succinctly?
I'll answer this question as short as possible. We are the recipient of 7 cities upwind of us, upstream, if you will, that contribute to this, and they don't care. But we have a committee that brings us all together as a coalition, and they are getting pressure from the state, from the Fish and Game, from the Army Corps of Engineers. And my job is to yell and scream a lot, and that's what I do, and it's working, and I'm going to end it with that. Trust me, it's all good news. We have a great future with the horrible water that ends up in our bay than we used to. End of the story.
Yeah, so stopping it before it gets into the bay is the best way to go. Next question.
Airplane noise?
What airplane noise?
Can they ban them?
Usually you're trying to ask a question like that just when the plane's going over. Yeah. So Mr. Airport Commissioner will answer that.
So I'm honored to sit on the Orange County Airport Commission and really getting up to speed. What I think what a lot of us have seen here is just much more quickening of the sequencing of planes coming over. And also, compared to a few years ago, where planes used more alternate takeoff patterns, you're really only seeing one now. And not to get too boring about this subject, but it's in respect to what we call next gen. It's basically, now instead of we were pretty, as the FAA, as a country, we were pretty outdated for a lot of years in terms of our technology. We were still using a lot of radios and a lot of other things. But over the last 10 years, and especially over the last 3 or 4 years, this next gen has been implemented. And you're much more precision type of flying by GPS systems and other types of systems. And so what they've done is they're able to sequence planes take off in a closer pattern as well as land in a closing pattern. But also, it's made, I don't want to, my cousin's a pilot, a 777 pilot, so I don't want to say they're lazy. It's not lazy, but you're, as a pilot for a big plane, you're really almost really a computer programmer. So you're programming your flight path in your computer before you even leave the gate. And unfortunately, the computer's just taking them this straight path every single time. There's not been any alternates what we've seen in the past where, it would share a little bit. Sometimes it goes south over a little more of a Corona del Mar. Sometimes it go up a little bit more. So it wasn't always completely over the island. And that's one thing we're working on. One of the things that the FAA said there's not been any noise issues. We know that there has been, especially if you're affiliated right under this pattern here. They're putting up more decibel readers, more, I think, kind of almost a better decibel reader than they've had previously. It was on the agenda 2 meetings ago, so that should go up pretty quickly. And then that's what's going to start the process. When you're on the airport commission, you have the county, you have the FAA, and the FAA is the 10,000-pound gorilla in the room, for sure. But we actually have a say. After 1990, no other airports in the nation have any, outside of the FAA, no other cities or counties or whatnot have a say like we have. Once we went into our agreement in '85 and the subsequent other amendments, we were actually have a very big say on takeoff and caps. We're capped at 10.5 billion passengers a year. That is going to rise in the next couple of years to 11.5. But we have a very large say in what happens through the county and then respectively through the city as well.
So when the airplanes take off over Dover Shores, we direct all the complaints from there to leave. We're happy that he's getting.
Now, to say one good thing is that the airlines are encouraged to bring their newer 737 Maxes, other what we call Class C aircraft. They're a lot more quieter coming into the airport. So what I'd like to see is a more private market, but an incentive program for the airlines to bring in their new.
Lee, let me follow up with that because I've been a pilot myself.
Okay.
Flew jets.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And so you used to have 3 different departures many times, and you'd reduce power. Are you telling me there's no reduction in power now?
What happens are, I'll tell you, and this is where we have to get more aggressive as an airport. They're just finance basically is become more of the attitude. So they're not reducing power as much as they should, and they're almost to say, well, we'll just take the fines and pay it.
Plus a lot of the newer aircraft.
And you're right. Some of the brands like the 737-900s and some other ones and some of the Airbus, I forget which version, but the engines are a little bit quieter and you can go straight up.
So shouldn't people speak up about increasing the fines then?
It's not really increasing the fines. They're set in the agreement. It's enforcing it. That's the enforcement.
Who's monitoring it? Because a friend of ours was on a flight recently and they said, okay, we're supposed to take off high, back down for all the rich people in Newport. He said, we're not going to do that today. Just for fun, we're going to make a little more noise.
The pilot
said that, and they did. Is there a way to monitor that?
The airport monitors that on its within the airport, and the airport should be picking that up. And I think they are. They say they have been. But what happens is you're having the airlines such as Southwest. I'm not picking down Southwest.
Southwest.
They have the most flights, and they're generally a very good customer. But good people in there, you're a guy you're a pilot or a lady that's based in Chicago, and you don't fly in Orange County very much, and you may not know it, but you're not as sensitive to the issues in the noise abatement programs, and so that's where we have the issue. So we need to, and this is what I talked with Barry about, who's the CEO of the airport. We need to really much more aggressively enforce these fines.
What about the particulate study What happened with that?
That is still in progress from what I see, because I haven't.
That's gotta be
I know.
5-7 years now?
Because all of us, I know, well, there was a new one, that's the reason, the one that was older, I don't have that one, but there was a newer one because of some of the newer equipment that they were trying to do a study on. And I think we all see the silt and everything that I
Okay,
see.
so we're looking for a non-airport question. Because we can spend the whole night on that.
Two-part question. So first one is, there's some large numbers put out there earlier on the cost for the infrastructure. And is there an annual amount needed every year to address that future cost? A amount from the city fund? Is it $4 million a year?
You're just talking about the infrastructure of the city just to keep it going?
Yeah, just or these
You wanna
large
take
costs
that?
that we need, is that if we need to come up with 10 more million per year, how much per year do we need to come up with to address these costs?
To address the costs, I mean, those costs are still in process. I know Will's done a lot of it. I won't pass off to Will, but I know it would be on the finance committee. You've seen a number of those costs. But of those, I mean.
We'll have a shot at it.
Okay.
I'm Director Traffic, Will.
Okay.
So the costs that I was talking about earlier were unfunded pension liability and the Civic Center debt. And just so you know, Civic Center debt still costs the city at least $8 million a year. And the pension costs themselves cost about 40. And so we're paying a quarter of our general fund budget every year toward pension and Civic Center debt. So to your question about infrastructure, yeah, infrastructure is getting crowded out a bit, and you see that in, for example, our sewer fund and also the Tidelands fund. So one of the questions earlier was about Tidelands fund, are we adequately serving it? No, right now it's 8 figures in debt on their Tidelands fund because they took a loan out of a little over $10 million to build Marina Park. So it's a beautiful, Marina Park is gorgeous, and it better be for $36 million. So the Tidelands fund right now is 8 figures in debt. So that's number one. And then to the other questions, yes, our unfunded pension liability will crowd out some of our infrastructure.
So my question is, say we need $5 million per year, $10 million.
It's $5 million.
Where's it gonna come from?
Well, fortunately, right now, what we're doing as a budget, and we did this in the last one, we reduced the amount we were spending in this last budget, and we're essentially guaranteeing, if our revenues hold the way we expect them to, we're guaranteeing a surplus. And that's the responsible thing to do. So this past year,
We held our spending down.
yeah, this past year we held our spending down pretty substantially, and that's phenomenal. I mean, that was one of those things that was it was something the council had told us to do at the finance committee level, and we were able to do it. And so we are projecting a surplus, and half of that surplus will go toward our long-term liabilities to continue to make sure we're not crowding out those quality of life services.
I mean, Kevin and Duffy and I voted against the budget our first year, 2015. We went back and looked. Every budget for the last 30 years was unanimous prior to 2015. So then when 2016 budget came around, like Will said, they lowered the budget considerably where Duffy and Kevin and I felt we could support it. But until that happened, you know, they talk about voting blocks on the council. The reality of it is there's been a go along, get along voting block in the council for decades.
What's gonna happen to the old city hall property ownership?
So I'll tell you what I think. The ground lease that was negotiated is not as it's not as good as it should have been. But what's happened now is we have a ground lease, and because
It's a valuable piece of property.
yeah, it is. It's a really valuable piece of property. But anyone who owns property that has a ground lease on it knows that the value of a property now is tied to how valuable the ground lease is. And the ground lease being what it is, it's not as valuable anymore to sell it because really the only person that's going to want to buy it is Bubbles.
And it's a 75-year lease, so there's not a lot of options.
If I work in real estate, if I would have done that, I would have been fired.
At $250,000 a year?
Yeah.
If the marijuana
Statewide.
prop passes, has the city made any provisions for dispensaries in Newport? Because, and the second part of that question is, does the state is the only one that gets the money on that, or does the city get a portion of that?
Yes, marijuana.
No, it's a ton of money involved in this.
The city, with medical marijuana alone, the city basically has outlawed all dispensaries or even transportation of marijuana in the city. And we had an option and we had a window to do that in, and we did that.
So if the
Now, if the proposition passes and they allow recreational use, I'm sure there will be new rules that are gonna come out, and cities are gonna have to take action as to what their rules are.
Just one note though on the money side. Remember that because marijuana is still Schedule I drug federally, banks can't take the money. And,
No, I know.
and credit, yeah, and credit, no, but it's important that other folks know how it works. Banks can't take the money, credit cards can't take the money, so it's a really, really heavy cash, heavy business right now. Which is interesting because in Colorado and Washington, the way they're paying a lot of their taxes is backing up a Brinks truck to state government and city government buildings and saying, here's $100,000, this is how much we owe in cash. So it's been interesting. At the federal level, I know Dana Rohrabacher is working really hard to legalize it, and he's also trying really hard to make sure that there's something that allows banks to take it in, because I think it's ridiculously dangerous the way that it's set up right now without banks being able to take the money.
All right, another question. That marijuana one, did you guys in?
So with the ground lease, the current ground lease in place, what is probable to take place there?
You're talking about
Yes, you're
existing
right.
hotel?
Yeah, keep it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a ground lease over on for Balboa Bay Resort, and that does actually very well. So we'll hold on to that property certainly. This ground lease, I mean.
Will there be a hotel there, you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that's what they're building right now. Yes. So I mean that the hotel will be great because we get transient occupancy tax, which is the third largest revenue source we have in the city. You get sales tax, which is our second largest, and then of course property tax, which is our first largest. So it's a good. I mean, we're going to make money on the property.
The lease rate sucks, but the tax income, because of the type of use that's there, will be very good. And the hope is that it'll spur other activity in Lido, and it'll be successful, and it'll generate more sales tax and other things too.
It was supposed to pay for the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it will eventually.
Well, the ground lease for the old city hall is $250,000 a year, and our mortgage payment is $8 million after the Obama subsidies. So it doesn't it doesn't even come close.
Can you, for those of us who don't understand, can you kind of maybe walk us quickly through the process of how that happened?
Sorry, the process of what?
Of how that happened?
The city?
The way that that the lease was so underdone. I mean, what's the process and how did that happen?
Oh, that's a Doug and Scott question.
I mean, Duffy will tell you that his little rental yard over there on Mariners Mile, he's paying, what, $600,000 a year?
We don't want to tell the number, we just know that it's twice what the hotel pays.
And the hotel's got 4 acres.
What was
He's
the
got-
process and how did it get to where we are today?
Passed that. What's the process?
What's the process?
They put it out to bid, the previous council put it out to bid, they had several offers of different kinds of uses, this is what we're gonna develop, this is what we can afford to pay. They didn't take the highest one, they took the second highest one with R.D. Olson, and that's the deal that they got. And when you sit there, if you would have put residential on it, which a lot of the neighbors did not want to see, we figured the value would have been somewhere in the $30 to $40 million range. And that would have paid a good chunk of the Taj Mahal, or at least it would have paid for Mariners Park. But that's not what happened. They put it out, there was a big push to have a hotel, not residential, and the 2 hotel guys that were competitive, one of them, the one that they denied, who offered the most rent, was anticipating an average per night stay of around $400 to $500. And they thought that was not sustainable. And so they chose R.D. Olson's proposal, and he's anticipating an average room stay fee of around $200 to $300, with most being around $250. And that's still going to be a very expensive, boutique hotel. But with the amount of rooms, see, the problem that I have in owning it is that we're affecting the hotel business with it. If the hotel is not successful, we're going to end up with it back, or the bank is going to take a haircut and sell it to another user. All sorts of things could happen. So we definitely want it to be successful from both a rent standpoint and a.
But that was my question. Who within the city
Tax
makes these decisions and assigns
It was
these
the
contracts?
previous council that made the decision.
The income from the hotel, if it was all pumping and selling beers and we're renting rooms and everything was great, equals 1 policeman and half a librarian every year. That's the income it produces. 1 cop, half a librarian.
That's about $1.2 million, $1.3 million.
It's real simple.
With pension, you gotta toss the pension.
It doesn't make any money. We were supposed to sell it, take the money and pay for a building where our new city hall was. But Rush Hill, in all his wise, sage advice, said you never sell property, you always keep it, because it's always valuable.
Don't you think the lease was a little bit too long?
Yeah, 75
Yeah, but
years.
nobody wants to invest in millions of dollars unless it's a long enough lease. We made more money on the mobile home park that was torn down from Mayor's Park.
A small issue on Balboa Island that's coming up to vote, I think, on Thursday, and it might be postponed, so that's why I'm curious to what you might think about it. It's again with the Village Inn, where it came to the City Council 6 months ago and was voted down. Now it's coming back up, the same proposal. My question is, how many times can you keep bringing it up? And do the candidates feel one way or the other? Are you aware of what's going on with the outside dining, taking over the bike racks?
I think it's going to planning commission, not the city council.
Yeah, it's going to planning commission.
Oh, it's planning commission on Thursday?
I mean, I would want to review that and just be extra sensitive to the noise that it's gonna, that it would bring onto the residents there. I mean, I'm definitely a private property guy and a pro-business guy, and Village Inn is definitely such an establishment here on Balboa Island. But then we also have to look at the concerns of the residents. So if there's, looking at what this new proposal is going to be when it comes up to planning commission, what the noise, I'll use the word abatement again, or at least the noise, if there is kind of things that are built in that'll make it better for the nearby residents, and it's really kind of digging down there, try to make a common ground between the residents and the owner.
Can this be they can just keep bringing it up because it was voted down by the City Council 6 months ago?
I'll refer to Scott.
So I'm curious how often you
I mean,
can.
basically, you have to bring a significantly different project back. Or if it's the same project, you have to wait 6 months. And
Yeah, it's the
every
same.
6 months, they can bring the exact same project.
So
back.
every 6 months
If they
I
want
got
to
it.
pay the fees
Okay.
and go through the thing.
Thank you.
Like maybe each of them to answer this question, under what conditions would you consider changing the general plan?
Changing the
General plan.
Oh, okay, so the question is, under what circumstances would you consider changing the general plan? That's a really wide open question, because there could be a dozen things that you could do, but examples. Somebody want to tackle it?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I'll tell you, I think the planning commission has been doing a really good job lately, and I'm really proud to be supported by both the chairman, Corey Kramer, and then another councilman or another planning commissioner named Eric Wygand. And lately, you see that they've actually been denying projects. Say that they denied the project over at Arnie's Deli area. They denied the project that would change the general plan up at the car wash project. They've kept St. James the Great as an institution, which I think is great.
They kept what? I'm sorry, I didn't get
St.
it.
James the Great, so that's the church over near Lido. They kept that as an institution instead of
Institutional use for the site.
Yeah, so that'll stay a church basically, and so it would require a really good project, frankly, for us to be able to do that. It'd have to be a really great operator. It'd have to be someone who has a long-term established relationship. And I'll tell you, the one thing I'd also have to see is something really great financially for it to pencil out, because for us, given the hole we're in on things like the Tidelands Fund, our pension issues, our civic center debt, and I'll tell you, if you take a look, it's an interesting thing. I'm running against someone right now who actually thinks it's a good idea for our arts program to be funded by developer fee agreements. And that's what the master plan of our arts community right now is proposing, using 2% of developer fee agreements, which, by the way, are impact fees. They're supposed to go toward mitigation issues, traffic and whatnot. Instead, it's being used, and I'm not joking, it's being used right now to pay for our rotating sculpture garden. And right now, based on what's going on at the development up in the Shop-Off development up near the airport, that fund is projected to have 7 figures in it for the rotating sculpture garden, instead of going toward mitigation like traffic. I can't believe, every time he says that at a forum, I cringe, but that's me.
That might be one of those first changes that you made.
So what I'll say is, it'd have to be a special project for that to happen.
Would you have voted to go?
I'd say, I agree, especially along the lines, if it makes sense financially, but it would have to be one that the majority of the city was definitely for. you know, one of my opponents is just wants to keep everything frozen, and then there's a in terms of development or any type of changes to the city, and I understand that from a nostalgic point of view, but I also had to work in LA the last 5 years, so I did a lot of driving and commuting. And if we want this community to be like a Venice or a Santa Monica, which that's not my vision for Newport Beach, let's just freeze any type of new development or any type of new things, and that can't happen. But the general plan comes up next year. It's coming up.
Yeah, we're required to review and update portions of the general plan every 5, 10, or 15 years, depending on what the element is.
So this is one thing, and a lot of people, they go, oh, you know, those Irvine apartments over there, you know, a lot of people complain about those, and I agree that they may not be the most susceptible, but that was approved back in 2006. So what I was saying is, like, and to say what Will said, the Planning Commission is doing a great job. That development they were going to do at Arnie's was so out of the element there, right next to the airport. I got voted down 7-0, both by commission and by city council. The car wash development got voted down 5-2. So I'm a very big believer in the process. You can't give special attention to whether it's a single person that's just going to make changes to their home, or it's a large note that have to go through the project, have to go through the process. Start with planning, start with, then if it gets there, through the planning commission, etc. But in terms of large-scale amendments to our general plan, no. But there is a time for that, at least in terms of changes, and that's when it comes up, say next year. And that's where I just encourage everyone to be involved in, because other people have different ideas for the city, and it's so much better to work from consensus instead of people being animosity between each other.
Scott, I have another question.
Brad, you want to take a quick shot at that, or should we go on to the next question?
Well, I just say, what Lee said at the end there is really important. The general plan is going to roll around here in another year or two. And that's the time to really pay attention, because that's the compact between the residents and the city for development. That's the blueprint for how development moves forward. And it's a big thing to get your arms around, but residents really need to pay attention to that when it comes up, because that's when you can really affect change. You can encourage development, you can hype all the things that we're worried about, concerned about. That's the time to really weigh in.
Okay, now that the Beacon Bay, they've withdrawn their applications.
The car wash project.
And I know that there was they were first in line in the museum house. But one of them was gonna trigger green light. Now that Beacon Bay is not on the table, what's the problem with the museum house? I mean, I'm for museum house. I think it's in the middle of the area, and okay, everybody shoot me, I don't care. But they wouldn't even trigger green light if they went forward. Why should that project be stopped?
So,
To
Here, I'll tell you what,
the people.
So let me jump in, because I'm the lawyer in the group. I'll tell you, it's an interesting thing, because everyone remembers when Woody's Wharf sued the city, and then it cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal costs and settlement. The reason for that was because, and I'm going to back around. The reason for it is because one of the council members had been very publicly opposed to it, and the court ultimately concluded that if you have essentially made up your mind before you go to council, you show bias against something or for something, you can't vote on the project. And so it's a fine line for us to be up here talking about that, especially with video. Because let's say we're really against it. If you're really happy with one side or the other, you're going to be upset with us for actually expressing it, because we're not going to be able to vote if we get on council.
No, but if it doesn't trigger green light, then
because it would require a general plan amendment.
It would.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
So just to set the table on that, using either the museum house or the car wash, there are no locations that you put residential in Fashion Island without a zone change general plan amendment. So, and green light allows 100 units for every 10 years. So there's 100 units out there available. And so there's some proposals that are out there to add those. But every single proposal, whether they added one dwelling unit or all 100 of them, will require a general plan amendment zone change. That's the way that it was designed. I think it was designed that way so that they could extract the development agreement and get as much money from the residential developers as they can, because we don't have a traffic mitigation fee.
But what about Meridian House?
What's the Meridian House?
The one next to the Marriott.
Neither of those took from the 100-unit dwelling units, according to our staff.
Okay, but that's residential living in Fashion Island.
That, right, and that required a zone change general plan amendment. It didn't go with the hotel. So it depends on whether it was classified as a hotel or residential. But both of the other projects, the 2006 general plan amendment took the San Joaquin apartments that are under construction now, which ironically, the three little two-story buildings that were down there in that hole, which no one ever really noticed unless you worked there, actually generates more traffic than those San Joaquin Hills apartments. San Joaquin Hills apartments took big mass and put them on the outside, and that protects the inside for private residential uses from the noise. So it appears really, really massive, but it's not, because it's got a big hole in the middle. It's a donut, and the amount of dwelling unit or the amount of traffic is less than the office, and it uses a different direction, right? Theoretically, they're going out from Fashion Island in the morning versus the office use, which comes in. And the office use coming in the morning, hey, if you're on the 73 and you want to get off of MacArthur or Jamboree to come to Fashion Island at 8 o'clock in the morning, the traffic's backed up way on the 73. So by taking that office use out of the picture and making it residential, actually helps that traffic. And that was approved in the 2006 general plan amendment. It just didn't get built till now. So it's kind of funny because I'll sit there, and these guys have had some of this run too at the different forums. It's kind of like, okay, I was on the council when it was being built, so it's your fault. It's like, hey, wait a minute. It was approved by the voters, per green light, back in '06, and it just took that long before they actually could get all their approvals and get it built. And by the way, they contributed with those. I want to say the number's about $35 million in development agreement fees, which then, well, it probably all went to Marina Park, but theoretically is for infrastructure improvements for their impact.
And how about property taxes? Will it exceed what they would have gotten for
The value of those homes or the apartments are higher than the offices, so yes, there'll be increases in property taxes.
That's why they tore down the businesses.
Well, not to mention the fact that the offices had been under the same ownership, the Irvine Company, for pre-Prop 13 days, so the assessed value was minuscule. So now with the improvements, it gets upgraded per the new values. So all that helps.
Scott, business friendly. The state of California has a lousy reputation for being business friendly. We're all here. We all make a living here in Newport. We're all mostly business people here, mostly legitimate.
Why do you look at Duff?
Speak for yourself. Actually, I'm going to come back to Duff because this will be part of the example. The business fees, lots of things keep creeping up. We go to City Hall. They charge us more for everything. Perfect example: our little Balboa Island parade. We've been doing it for 25 years. Every year it costs us more money to put on this parade. We got to pay for police, fire, permits. We go through hoops to get this parade done. Now, Duffy went through hoops to get he had to move his business a long way away because of fees and regulations and all the horse shit we go through. Now, we want to watch the growth, but at the same time, the fees keep going up and up and up for small businesses and our little Balboa Island and things that we do, which, we're getting charged an awful lot, and to me, it seems like it's out of control.
Okay, so I know there's a question in there somewhere.
What are we going to do to control those fees?
Raise it.
Anybody want to tackle the business license tax?
I'll start off with that. Business license, I think that should be gradually phased out.
You have to explain.
Well, yeah, it's a per employee tax or organizational tax for all new businesses. So whether you're Irvine company or the Subway shop on PCH in Corona Del Mar. And basically, it's an $800 or $1,600, depending on exactly.
It's your sales tax, it's
yes.
$1,600. If you're not sales tax, it's
$1,600. And obviously, a $1,600 tax to the Irvine company is not even a rounding to them. But to the Subway shop and to the little businesses we have in Corona Del Mar, to the businesses we have in Marine in Balboa, that actually is a cost. That's a pretty big cost to every year. $1,600. That's maybe an additional employee during the holidays, or an additional employee during the summer, or at least someone that could work part-time. And so I would always look at things like that. I come from a background, it's my first time running for office, but I spent many, many years getting limited tax, pro-business type candidates to office. And this is one of the largest reasons why I want to run. I want to see a much more efficient, friendly, business-friendly city here than what we've seen. And you often talk about the planning department and all the obstacles that this up to with all the residences, the early changes and whatnot. But that's a very big concern, or a very big thing for me.
Anybody else want to take a step?
Well, I just want to say about the Balboa Parade, it's the same thing as the Harvard Heritage Run.
Right.
The cost of the permit and the policing and the fire and all those make it almost impossible. I know someone who ran that event, the Harvard Heritage Run. It's just crazy how much it's gone up.
I won't waste
There should be a way for communities to really take care of themselves in these events. I mean, I got to think the residents of Balboa could handle a lot of the stuff that goes on. I don't know why you need to have a.
I won't waste your time, but we just finished with a parade, a one-block little gala to celebrate 100 years of Balboa Island.
Right.
We went through hoops
Yeah, shouldn't
to
have to.
put on that little one-block
Shouldn't
event.
have to.
It was fabulous.
Back and forth. Well, we had a great committee. Yeah, it was a fabulous
So if
time.
you have to have 10 more cops on the street, all those pensions are just killing it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't need 10 cops on the street in Balboa Island. People.
But you get the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, any other questions? Okay, I have one more thing to say is, it's still expensive to get the word out. So these guys have envelopes, they're embarrassed to ask you themselves, but they really do need your help, and you guys really do need, if you can, write a check, even if it's for 10 bucks. Max is 11, we'll take max checks, no problem. But yeah, it would really help. Thank you so much for coming tonight, learn a little bit about them. Stick around and ask questions if you want, and if you feel so motivated, take a sign, write a check.
Lots of signs.
Take a sign and write a check, and thank you, Susan. Thank you.